How's it going, Facebook friends? It's good to see you here in our second episode of our Take Pride in Our Body podcast. And today's topic is how to build muscle once and for all. This is what you guys asked for, so this is what you got. The idea today is to explore the benefits of building muscle, and you all mentioned here in the group that you want to look stronger, you want to be healthier, and you want to feel more confident. So having more muscle is going to give you all those things. Let's jump right into the 3 things you need to look into if you're looking to build muscle once and for all. How's it going, Brian? I see that you just joined. I know some of you may not be looking to build muscle, as you pointed out in the group. You're looking to burn some fat, and just want to remind you that the more muscle you have in your body, the more calories your body has to burn to just maintain that muscle mass. So you automatically will be burning more fat, more calories, just by having more muscle in your body. So another reason for you to stay tuned on the 3 things you need to be doing to build muscle once and for all. As with everything that I've mentioned in the group, 3 major components in this order. Number 1, nutrition or diet. Number 2, it's going to be your training or your exercise. And number 3, it's going to be your mindset. They all have to work together. If you're missing one of the 3 pieces, you're not going to get the results you want. So let's jump right in. Feel free to write some questions in here as we go along. That's the idea of the live session. If you're watching it later, drop the comments too. I'll check back and reply to your comments. So jumping into the first point of building muscle once and for all is nutrition. Most important thing is that you're in a hypercaloric diet, meaning you're eating more calories than your body needs to just maintain its body weight. A lot of people here in the group asked me to approach this on how to calculate the number of calories and how to calculate their macros for a lean bulking phase, or meaning gaining muscle without getting too fat in the process. So a good rule of thumb would be to multiply your body weight in pounds by 15. So I'll give you an example. One of my clients, I'll just say his name is Josh, for example. So Josh is 200 pounds. He weighs 200 pounds. So we'll multiply 200 by 15. We'll get the total of 3,000 calories a day. So that would be a good ballpark figure to start with. Multiply your body weight in pounds by 15, and you get a number that will be an approximation of what you want to be at for a hypercaloric diet. Second most important thing when it comes to the amount of calories you're eating is that there's got to be enough protein, there's got to be enough carbs, and there's got to be enough fats. You need all the 3 macronutrients in your diet if you want to build muscle optimally. Starting with protein, that's what's going to help you to repair your muscle tissue. That is what's really going to generate the muscle growth. So you aim for a minimum of 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight per day. So going back to my client's example, if he weighs 200 pounds, he wants to aim at 200 grams of protein a day, every day. As far as the timing of your meals, that is really important for you to spread it out during the day. You don't want to take in all of your calories all at once because your body cannot store protein. It uses the protein to repair muscle tissue, but it cannot store it. So if you're taking it too much all at once, whatever is not using to repair muscle will be stored as fat, which you probably don't want. So have at least 4 meals a day as many meals as you can. In this example, this client of mine, it has to take in 200 grams of protein a day. 4 meals would be even too few for him. So spreading it out over 6 meals a day, or 5 meals a day, will make sure that your body is synthesizing that protein during the day evenly. Second most important macronutrient, besides the protein, is going to be carbs. A lot of people in the group here mentioned they're afraid of carbs, and there's a big myth around carbs that they're going to make you fat. But if you want to build muscle, you've got to eat enough carbohydrates, because they're the fuel for your training. Your body will store carbohydrates as glycogen in the muscle, and that is what it's going to use when you're training for fuel. So if you don't have enough carbs in your diet, if you're doing a keto diet, or if you're doing super low carb, your body will not have enough fuel for the workouts. Your performance will suffer, and you're not going to be able to build muscle as effectively and as sustainably as you would like. So don't be afraid of carbs. Obviously, choose your carbs wisely. Nutrient timing, again, is super important here, not just the quantity. So as far as the amount of carbs, I would go even about 50% of your total calories a day, or very close to that, on carbs. So going back to the client example I gave you, if he's 200 pounds, he's eating 200 grams of protein a day, which means 800 calories out of protein a day. 1 gram of protein is 4 calories. The same thing with carbs. So 1 gram of carb has 4 calories. If remember, he's taking in 3,000 calories a day, it would be safe to say that about half of those calories would be coming from carbs. So just use a calculator, see how many carbs you're taking in a day. Try to use about half of those calories in carbs. Divide the number of calories by 4, and you got the number of calories that the number of grams that you're eating, and the number of calories that you're eating from carbohydrates. Most importantly, with the timing, make sure that you're eating plenty of carbs before your workout and after your workout. Before your workout, it's going to be fuel for your workout, so you got energy to go heavy and hard. And after the workouts, it means it's going to replenish those glycogen levels in your muscles and help protein work its synthesis and muscle repair. So don't fall for the low carb keto if you're trying to build muscle. That is my recommendation to you. And the third macronutrient you really need to make sure you include in ample amounts is fats, healthy fats. Try to aim for about 20% of your total calories a day, or maybe half of your body weight in pounds and grams of fats. So going back to our example person of 200 pounds, 200 pound weight. So that person, if you want to use half of the body weight, you would say about 100 grams of fat. Remember, 1 gram of fat has 9 calories, so just divide that 100 by 9 and you get a number of fat you should be eating that day. And the other approach is just to go about 20% of your total calories a day. Going back to our example again, the 200 pound person multiplied his body weight by 15, so you got 3,000 calories. From those 3,000 calories, you want to have about 20% of fat, so that will be about 600 calories of fat. Again, divide the 600 calories by 9, and that will give you the number of grams you should be eating a day in fat. I've already mentioned in previous videos, you may need to use some tracking device in the beginning to figure out how many grams, what those grams look like in your plate, in your meals, right? You may use a calculator, you may use an app like MyFitnessPal, or you could use a nutritionist or a coach to help you already figure that out for you and just give you a plan that you can follow. But nutrition is key to muscle building. If you're not taking in enough calories, if you're not taking in enough protein, enough carbs, and enough fats, your body will not be able to build those muscle cells, to make them grow and to add more muscle size to your body. So once we got that straightened out, the nutrition and the diet is out of the way, Second point I want to bring out is training. So if you want to build muscle, you've got to be doing some resistance training. When I say resistance, it most likely will mean weight training. It could be your body weight, but it most likely will include using some free weights in the form of barbells, dumbbells, or even machines or cables at the gym or even at home. Right now, drop a comment below if you are already training. Write the word training below so that I know you're already doing resistance training. You're working at home or working out at the gym. Let me know in the comments. Write the word training, and I want to just be really specific about the training part in here. Resistance training or weight training has three specific principles you need to be applying in order to build some muscle, and once and for all. First one is going to be the principle of specificity. Basically, if you want to build muscle, you've got to train in order for your muscles to have reasons to grow. So it has to be challenging enough. The weights or the resistance that you're training with have to be hard enough to begin with to stimulate some sort of muscle growth in your cells, in your body. So the intensity or the minimum intensity that's challenging for you would be a minimum of about 60% of one repetition maximum, but ideally you want to be close to 75% of your one repetition maximum to begin with, and build it up from there towards 80, 85%, or even 90% of your one rep max. If you don't know how to calculate that, there are calculators online that you can put in how many repetitions you're doing for a set of 10 or for a set of 8, and then from there you can figure out what your one rep max would be. In terms of rep ranges, each one of your sets should be challenging enough so that you feel that you were able to do maybe about anywhere between 5 repetitions and 30 repetitions. You can build muscle anywhere in that wide spectrum of reps, between 5 and 30 reps. I know that this is a pretty big range, but it is good to periodize the training, so where you have periods when you're working with low rep ranges between 5 and 8 to work on your strength. And there are also times where you want to be working in that intermediate range between 8 reps to 12 reps, which is the ideal hypertrophy or muscle size, muscle gain type of training. And you also want to have periods in a training during the year where you're working with higher reps, more than 15 or even 20 reps for some sort of metabolite type of work, and to allow your joints and your ligaments to regenerate after the heavier training. I'm looking at the comments right now and see somebody here, James, pointing out, thanks for joining, and he has a hard time instinctually knowing what 70%, 80%, or 85% effort feels like. There are other ways you can measure the intensity of your training, such as RPE, or rate of perceived exertion. If you've heard of RPE before, drop it in the comments, RPE. And another way that you could use is thinking of how many reps in reserve, or how many reps away from failure you are while maintaining your proper technique and proper form. So I'm going to give you an example. You're doing squats and you load the bar with 200 pounds. After warming up to those 200 pounds, obviously, you're able to put 200 pounds of the bar, and you do about 10 repetitions, and then you feel that by the 10th repetition, you would still be able to do maybe 1 more rep before failing, or 2 more reps before failing, or even 3 more reps before failing. So if you're about 1 rep away from failure, or 2 reps away from failure, or maybe 3 reps away from failure, then you are somewhere between 70 or 80 or 90% of your 1 repetition maximum. So that is one way of guessing the intensity level that you're in. So in a rate of maximal exertion, 10 being that's the heaviest you can go, you really want to be around a 7, an 8, or a 9 out of 10 in terms of how difficult the exercise is. Um, that brings me to the second point that you should be looking into when you're thinking about training and training intensity. Um, that intensity should be gradually increasing in a progressive overload. So, for example, at the beginning of your training cycle, you want it to be challenging enough that you could do that number of reps, but you still have a few repetitions in reserve. You're not going to failure. You're not pushing all the way until your form and technique breaks down at every set. You want to stop maybe 2, 3 repetitions before you feel like you're going to fail and that your form is going to break down and your technique is going to break down. And then you gradually, as the weeks progress, you gradually want to move closer and closer and closer to failure. So by your second week of training, maybe you're 2 reps away from failure, and maybe a third week of training, you want to get to maybe 1 rep away from failure. And going on the 4th week of training, then you really want to reach failure. So there's got to be progressive overload where you're starting at a already challenging level the first week of working out. Like I said, about 70 or 75% of your maximum, 1 repetition maximum that you could establish by using, like I said, one of those calculators online, using a rate of perceived exertion, meaning, 10 being the most tired you can be, you're about 70 or 80%, or you're about 3 reps away from failure. And then slowly, gradually moving closer and closer and closer to failure as the weeks progress. It is important to have this progressive overload in intensity so that you know that at one point when you're reaching, you're close to failure and you really can't keep on progressing or adding load to the bar or adding sets or adding weight or adding repetitions, then that will indicate that it's time for you to deload, to take an easier week, to recover, to regenerate. And so when you're not making progress anymore, then it's really important to know when to back off. Now, still answering the question here in the comments, if this guideline is used for one who wants to build muscle or just to maintain. Today's topic is all about building muscle. So I'm focused on muscle building right now. So that is the guideline that we're going for. So speaking of training, it needs to be challenging enough for your body to have a reason to grow, as I mentioned, and there has got to be progressive overload. Doesn't necessarily mean that every workout you're going to be adding weight to the bar, or that every workout you're going to be adding sets, or every workout you're going to be adding repetitions. But what it does mean is that whenever you get to a point where you see you're not progressing enough, that means that your body has fatigued already, and it will be counterproductive to keep on training if you want to keep making those gains. And that'll indicate that it's time for you to back off and recover, give yourself a deload week, give yourself an active rest day, or just take a whole day off. So it is important to use your intensity and your performance at the gym as an indicator of when it is time for you to give your body some time to heal. Let me give you a practical example again. If you're squatting with 200 pounds for your first week of training, and you were able to do 3 sets of 10 repetitions using 200 pounds, and you go back the following week and you're still using those 200 pounds, and you're not able to do the 10 reps anymore like you did the previous week, you're only able to get 9. That means you're not getting stronger, right? You're getting weaker. So what do you do next? The following week you go to the gym, you try again to squat with your 200 pounds, and instead of doing the 10 reps or the 8 reps that you did the previous week, so you're only doing 7 reps. That means you're overtraining. You're not progressing. So that is an indication that you really need to back off your training, deload, take a week off, or just take a week of lighter training until you can make some progress again. So progressive overload means you're increasing the intensity, or it's getting more challenging. It's getting harder every time, right? So you want to be doing maybe 3 sets of 200 for the first week. The next week you go in, you maybe want to try 3 sets of 205 pounds for the squat for the same number of reps. Or maybe you want to still keep to 200 pounds, but then do 4 sets of 10. So there has got to be some sort of a progression. It may not be linear. It may not be happening every workout. You may not be able to add a set or reps or weight every workout, but if you start to notice that you can't add either of these after 2 or 3 sessions, then it really is time for you to back off. So that is my recommendation as far as the training intensity and the progressive overload, aiming to make your training hard enough and regularly increasing the level of difficulty of your training by adding either weight to the bar or sets to that same exercise with the same weight, or adding repetition. The second thing you need to consider in terms of training is your volume. The training volume pertains to how many sets you're doing each week to a particular muscle group. So let's talk, for example, legs, since we're giving the example of squats. Let's suppose that you have been lifting for a while and you know that you need to do about 10 sets a week for legs in order for you to feel that your legs are getting stronger. You feel that pump in your legs. You feel your legs are getting sore the day after or a few days after you're working out, and you visibly feel that your muscles are getting harder and bigger and it's stronger. So once you figure out your minimum volume, effective volume, you need to be sure that you're also increasing that volume progressively. For most people, that volume will be anywhere between 10 sets a week to 10 sets a week for a given muscle group. It's highly individual. You have to look at your training history, which is why it's important for you to keep records of your training, right? How many sets you're doing, how many reps you're doing, what the weights are you using, so that you can see how you're progressing and what your minimum effective volume is. So if you're more advanced and you've been training for a long time, your minimum effective volume is most likely going to be much higher than if you're just starting to work out now, or if you've just been working out for a few months. So the volume that you're working with also should be progressively increasing as you go through the weeks until you reach a point where you cannot recover from them and then back off. Similarly, what I said to you about the training intensity. So giving you an example, if I find that, I usually train my legs twice a week, and I do 5 sets of leg exercises each of those days. So I have 10 total working sets per week, and I feel that gives me a good pump. Then the next week, I'm going to aim to increase that volume a little bit. So I could try to do 12 sets for the next week. So I will be doing 6 sets on one day and then 6 sets on the other day that I work on legs. And for the next week, I'm going to try to go maybe 14 sets. Add another set each week that I go, and see if I'm still able to keep the same number of reps and still using the same load, and still making some progress to the point where this progressive overload in terms of intensity and in terms of volume will also cause some fatigue. Your body will not be able to recover from just keeping on adding more sets. So you may find that at one point when you're doing 20 sets of leg exercises per week, you're doing 10 sets on one session and 10 sets of the other session. Then at that point, you already feel that you're not increasing the weight on the bar, or you're not increasing the number of sets, or you're not increasing the number of repetitions that you're getting. That means that that's your maximum recoverable volume, and that also means it's time for you to deload, time for you to take an easy week off, or to do some active rests. So that is the second principle for muscle building. It has to do with training, and it is pretty complex, so it is important that you can keep track of it, or have somebody who is a trained professional help you so that you're achieving your maximum potential in terms of training for muscle building. I'm going to give you an example of one of my clients who had been uh, training for years and years and years and had reached a plateau, wasn't really making those gains anymore, even though he was going to the gym all the time. So it turns out he had never done a deload before. He just kept going and going and going. He just kept on training because he felt that if he stopped training, he wasn't going to make gains. And when you looked at his training, you could see that there was no progression there. There was no periodization. It was kind of a haphazard, and there wasn't even a record of anything. So one day he would go to the gym, and then he would do those squats, and for 200, and then the next week he would go in, and he would try the 200. He wasn't feeling it, so he would just do maybe 180 for a set, and then he would try to get to 200, but he wouldn't get enough reps. So then he would just lower that, and then lower to 150 and try to do more reps. And then the next week he would start at 150 again and don't even know how many reps. And then the next week he would try and put 170 on the bar, and then it was too heavy, and then he would go back to 160. So there was really no progressive overload. There was no progression. He had no idea of the volume that he was training in, and obviously those gains weren't happening. So if you're serious about muscle building, drop in a comment below volume and intensity. If you're tracking those two words, are you tracking your volume? Are you tracking your intensity? Do you write down how many reps you're doing for each exercise? Are you writing down the weight that you're using on the bar? How many sets? Do you keep track of that? And do you use that information to your favor so that you can use all of that data to program your training and keep those muscle building capacity to the max? So I'm going to move on to the third and final point in muscle building once and for all, and that has to do with your mindset. And that is a complex one because, as I just mentioned in the previous example, a lot of people think that more and more and more is the way to go, and that you've got to train super hard all the time, and that is really counterproductive to muscle growth. You've got to use the information from your muscle training to inform your next steps in terms of your exercise routine. So the mindset is that more is not always better. There's got to be a progression that is logical and gradual, but there's also got to be a time where we have to back off and deload. And that has to be planned throughout the year. And when you think of muscle building, you're building like a skyscraper. You're not building a sand pile, meaning it takes a long time for you to build muscle. It will not happen quickly. So you've got to have that expectation, manage your expectations in terms of how fast you will get there. It is a long term process. So you've got to be patient. You've got to be consistent. You've got to be consistent with your training. You've got to be consistent with your diet. And they both have to work together. So if you're not eating right, maybe six times a week out of the 7 days a week, you're not really following, not eating enough calories, not eating enough protein, not eating enough carbs, then you're not going to get the results that you want even if you're training every day. So consistency in terms of eating, consistency in terms of training, following progressive overload in which week after week after week you're regularly building until you can't take no more than you deload. That is a long game. So don't go in thinking you're going to make some rapid gains. Don't start eating too quickly because you're going to be building, just getting a lot of fat in the process instead of just building muscle. And you just have to adjust your expectations in terms of the fat gain that comes along with muscle building as well. Every time you're eating more calories than you need, you're in a hypercaloric state, you will gain some fat. So you also have to be prepared for that. If you want to build muscle, you will get a little bit of fat in the process. It is normal for somebody to gain from 3% to 5% body fat when they're trying to build muscle in the process. So a lot of people, when they start to not to see their abs like they used to see before, they panic and then they just stop eating enough calories, or they back away from the training and they don't allow enough time for your body to build muscle. Like I said, it's like building a skyscraper. You have to build a foundation and then do floor by floor by floor by floor, and it's not really a little sand pile that after a week or after a few days you're going to see some results. It takes months. There's a lot of research saying that it takes at least 6 months for you to have just that foundation of muscle building. So it is a long-term game. It may take more than a year for you to see some muscle growth. So during that year, you've got to be smart about your periodization. You've got to plan those cycles of progressive overload with enough deloads in the middle, and you've got to plan your diet and stick to the nutrition throughout, regardless of the slight the slight fat gain that you will see. The second point that I need to talk about in terms of your mindset is your patience, right? A lot of people just want a quick fix. They think that the supplements are going to help them, or they want to resort to maybe hormones or any sort of a quick fix, but they will not work long term either if you don't keep doing them and if you don't have the other elements in place. So have your mindset ready for a long haul. Be ready for consistency. There are days when you're not going to be motivated. That's another thing a lot of you guys talked about, motivation. If that's something you struggle with, write in the comment motivation, because for you to be able to stick with it for months and months and months on end, you've got to have a really deep reason why you're doing this. So work on finding out your reasons why. Why do you want this? Why do you want to look more muscular? Why do you want to be stronger? Why do you want to have more self-esteem? Why do you want to focus on your nutrition? And then just remember that there's going to be days when you don't want to do it, but just focus on the mini actions that you have to do every day. Just focus on your daily workout. Just get to the gym and do the workout that you already planned. Even if it's a deload workout, just go and do it. Remember, you also will need to take, your body will need time to recover. So program rest days in your work week. How many rest days you're going to need, it's going to depend on your body type. It's going to depend on how much you sleep and on your nutrition. If you're a hard gainer, you may need to take more days off than if you are a mesomorph, if you already have that athletic look. So you have to listen to your body and allow it enough time to recover. Whenever you see you're not making enough progress, take an active day off or take a week off. Get enough sleep every night. Remember, as I mentioned in the other videos, your body only recovers when you're sleeping and resting. So are you getting enough sleep every night? If that's something you struggle with, write in the comment the word sleep. I know a lot of people asked for tips on how to sleep more, and I made a video about it before too. But if you're interested in more tips on how to increase your sleep and your sleep quality, drop it in the comments below. I work with a lot of people who have not been sleeping properly before, and it is also scientifically proven that if you're underslept, if you're not sleeping enough, then you will lose muscle, even if you're eating properly and if you're training properly. So adequate sleep is key, and that is also has to be a part of your mindset. Remember, you have to schedule free time for you to sleep, schedule time to relax, manage your stress levels. Don't stress over work and nutrition and the gym and have these constant thoughts in your mind. You have to know how to turn off your mind and your thoughts at night and get a good night's sleep. Plan your schedule pretty well so that you can get to bed at a decent time that will allow you to sleep for about 6, 7, or 8 or even more hours a night, depending on how many hours you feel is optimum for you, and stick with it, right? I mean, just make your rest days total rest days. Don't try to do too much. Going back to the principle of specificity that I said, if you're training to gain muscle, try not to spread yourself too thin with adding running sessions, adding bike sessions, adding martial arts sessions. If you're doing too many things all at once, plus work, plus the gym, it's just your body will not be able to handle it. The stress levels will go up. So work on relaxation techniques. Find something that relaxes you. It could be meditation. It could be just doing something that you find relaxing, such as reading, or it could be being outside in nature and just going to the beach and relaxing on the beach, chilling by the pool, or having a good time with your friends. But there's got to also be some downtime in your life so that you can have the motivation to hit the gym at your full potential, and then sleep, rest, recover, and bring those energy levels back to normal. Well, this is it for our live session today. I really appreciate you coming and watching. Drop a like if you're interested in finding out more about one of those 3 aspects that I mentioned today. If you want to go more in depth with the nutrition part and how to calculate your macros and how to find out what the right types of foods you should be eating and how to prepare your healthy meals to build your muscle building potential, leave it in the comment the word nutrition. If you want to know more about training and how to work with progressive overload and intensity levels and deload days and figuring out how many days you need to rest, write the word training below so that I can produce more videos on that. And if you really want to work on your mindset, meaning the time frame that it takes for you to build muscle, how to stay motivated throughout those months, also in terms of sleep and recovery and rest, that is also part of the mindset. How are you able to adjust your mindset to also having downtime? Leave that word in a comment, mindset. Feel free to drop any questions, as I said. If you watch this video later, or if you're watching it right now, it would be a pleasure to answer these questions. And last but not least, if you're interested in one-on-one coaching with me for fitness training, nutrition guidance, personal guidance on your exercise and your mindset, reach out to me over direct message. It would be a pleasure to help you out with that. Hope you have a great day today. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you next Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bye-bye.